Welcome back, folks, to my ongoing week of a community-sourced quote-unquote car pack within Gran Turismo 7, the Special Projects pack as I like to call it, something which, if you guys continue to enjoy them, I may well do again. There are quite a few more builds that would be very fun to do. This time we're moving on to a fan favourite. This is, to be honest, a car which I could kind of see them bringing back anyway, because it was so popular and it's a tremendously good car and would certainly make for a nice returning rival for the ZR1 Corvette. It is, of course, the Viper ACR, based on the 2006 SRT-10, which we have in the game. Lovely design done by the community, and the parts definitely lean into building a car like this. Now, to move first of all into what you'll need to fit to the car to do the build, of course this one is a little bit different to the four that I've already done because those were pure racing machines, whereas this one needs to feel a little bit more realistic, but at the same time quicker. And for reference, for those who are curious, I've actually used the ACR from Gran Turismo 6 as a comparison. So we're running about the same weight, about the same horsepower. Of course, the point level is slightly different, but that's what we're working with. So again, I didn't want to fit too many racing parts because that would feel unrealistic. We've gone for the sports computer, the sports air filter. I do have the sports silencer, but you don't need to buy that. I purchased it because I wanted to see the difference between the exhausts, so you don't need to buy that one. You do want your sports brake pads and the stage 1 weight reduction. I've actually opted to leave this one on sports hard tyres, again for the sake of realism. Then for the club sports section, I've gone for high compression pistons, sports brakes, the sport clutch and flywheel. The power restrictor you don't actually need. I always like to have it because it's just cheap and useful, but you don't need to do it. You will need to buy the ballast though, which is also of course pretty cheap. For the semi-racing stuff, we do have the fully customized computer. I haven't adjusted it, but you will want that one in terms of power. As far as the silencer, that's the one I'm actually using, the semi-racing one. You will want your fully customized diff. We don't need, as I said, any more of the weight reduction or the body rigidity, or at least I haven't. We've gone for the balanced tuning on the engine and the polished ports. I have purchased a racing air filter for it as well. And then as far as the rest down here, we just have, I believe, the fully customized suspension, and I actually have opted not to do the transmission. You might be curious as to why. The reason why is because A, you don't really need to change the gear ratios that much to make it feel realistic, but also because changing it to a race transmission changes more than just the ratios. It changes how quickly the car gets through its gears in terms of the actual shift time. And that, again, just wouldn't feel realistic. You want to have that slight lag, that little bit of a clunk that you feel with that stock gearbox to make it feel that much more realistic. And as far as the extreme stuff, we don't have any of that fitted. So it's actually a relatively affordable build to do from that side. Then as far as the visuals, you don't need the wide body, because again, that wouldn't be realistic on this one. And I'll flash up, of course, on screen the player who created this particular visual design, as well as the tags that you can use to find it. Of course, there are tons of people who have done ACR designs. This is one of the ones which I preferred. To me, it looks really good. It looks authentic to the car. But if you want to go for a different one, of course you can. I don't recall changing anything about what they've done either, so if you want to check if I have, just compare it visually, but I'm pretty sure I didn't change anything there. Then, of course, we're going to jump back into the home garage menu to get into the actual nitty-gritty of the tuning. So, to jump into the car settings, of course we've left it on sports hards, naturally. As far as the suspension, I've gone for 110mm for front ride height, 115 on the back. That might seem really high, but again, you've got to remember this is not a race car, and it needs to look and sit like the real car should. So yes, it is lower than the standard SRT-10, like the ACR would be, but you don't want it to look slammed, at least if you want it to be realistic. We've increased the anti-roll to 5, the compression on the dampers to 36 with 44 on the rebound. I've gone for 2.55 on frequency, which is pretty close to the middle, as you can see. As far as camber, 0.5 degree on the front, 1 degree on the back to really tighten it up through corners. Likewise with the toe for more stability, we've towed out 0.10, or I should say towed in 0.10 on the back, then towed out 0.10 on the front. As far as the diff, of course, everyone has their own preference here, and if you do want to experiment and change around, absolutely go for it. That's part of the fun with these tunes. I've gone for 20 though for initial torque, 30 for acceleration, 15 for braking. Of course, we don't have NOS. Like I said, stock transmission. I have not adjusted the power restrictor, like I said. We do have ballast though, 160 kilos to bring us up to that Gran Turismo 6 weight of 1,552 kilos. And then as far as the ECU adjustment, like I said, that has not been changed. Now technically, in Gran Turismo 6, the car had, I think it was 606 horsepower, not 608, but I wasn't able to really get that to exactly 606 without fitting unnecessary parts and messing around and restricting the engine, so I decided to just kind of leave it as it is. For the sake of 2 horsepower, it's not too much of a difference. So if you want to get really specific about it, you could do that, but again, you're going to start to make the car feel less authentic if you start fitting tons of stuff and then heavily restricting it, and I didn't want to do that, like I said. For downforce, we've got 100 on the front, 110 on the back, which seems very low on the rear, but that's basically to keep them fairly equal. And again, you can change that, feel free to if you want to. And as far as the actual fitting, racing air cleaner or filter, semi-race exhaust, as I said, of course, sports brakes, sports pads, sport clutch and flywheel, and then down here you can see, of course, the other things which we've done as well. So that's it for the tune. You can see it sits at just over 600 points, not too high, and if you wanted to, you could de-restrict it and use it as maybe a 600-point car, but I'll leave that down to you. Now, of course, all that remains is to jump over to Laguna Seca and give it a run. Now, as I mentioned early on in this video, this car, if you've used my other builds until this point, and most of the ones after it as well, you might find it a bit jarring how different it feels. This isn't some world-conquering car that's going to destroy everything on the track, and your memories of the Viper ACR may be that it is this all-conquering monster, but I would urge people to remember, I'm not trying to make this feel like a tuned Viper ACR, I'm trying to make it feel more like what the Viper ACR feels like straight out of the box. So if you feel a little bit underwhelmed, that was kind of the point. You know, it needs to feel quick, but still like a standard ACR before you've done anything to it. So I've basically been working within those limitations, trying to make it more tight, taut, quicker than a normal SRT-10, but not too far over the top. So it has some weight to its steering, you can still step the tail out, it has that kind of road car feel, that straight out of the box feel which I wanted it to have. So of course, if you do decide to use the tune and find it fun, of course tell me about it down below. Maybe if you made some changes that you think might benefit people, absolutely put that down in the comments as well. Of course, check out the other builds which I've already done, and be sure to stick around here on the channel for the ones coming out in the coming days. But that's it for this one. Show the creator of the design some love, and of course, I'll see you next time. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.